Hey, it's Aaron from GameEnthus.com, and this time I'm checking out Cycles. So, Cycles is a game that won the 2017 International Serious Play Awards. It was a gold medal winner. So, there's an educational component to the game. It is a set collection game that's trying to teach younger people about life cycles while set collecting and stealing cycles from their friends and/or family. Cycles is being published by Catlilli Games and was designed by Dr. Catherine Croft, and Jon Nardolilli. Did I mention the stealing of cycles? Because there's definitely cycle stealing in this game. Let me show you how it works. Okay, so as I said earlier, cycles, 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up. Cycles. It says a strategy card game about the circle of life, and that's true. So these are all the various species that are in the game. There are 12 of them, unless I double counted, which is entirely possible. Each having a different border and main color on each card. So each one of these life forms is going to have a cycle of numbers 1 through 4. So there'll be one, this is a stage 2 mushroom, but there's 4 of them, and it goes for all the rest. So the active or passive abilities they each have are going to be the same. So the active ability for all 4 stages of the mushroom are going to all be the same for all the rest. So if you have one, then you know the ability for that entire. So once you have a cycle in front of you, I'll make more sense in a moment. You'll be able to have that ability, even if you only have one of them, if that makes sense. So if you have one kangaroo, the kangaroo's passive ability is you may use 2 powers on your turn, not the same power twice. That's actually kind of dope. I like that. I should have used that. So let me just go through all of them. So you have the mushroom with an active ability of add any card from the discard pile to your hand. That's pretty dope, because what the discard pile works is discard pile is going to cascade, just showing the stage for, it's going to cascade showing that the stage number, and players are going to be able to draw from a deck or the discard pile, but from the top of it first. So what the mushroom will let you do is it will let you take any card from the discard pile. So you don't have to go from the top. You can just take anything. That's pretty cool. That's active. The human has an active ability to exchange a cycle you control for another player's incomplete cycle. It does not count as a steal. A steal is one of the actions you can take. I'll go over those in a moment. Where that becomes advantageous is, so if you have a cycle that has 2 out of the 4, another player has 3 out of the 4 of another cycle, and let's say you happen to have a card in hand to complete their cycle, you could steal theirs and build your own on one turn. And yeah, you'll see why that makes sense in a moment. Move this up a little bit. You have the sea turtle, and it says protect a cycle. It cannot be stolen until its owner's next turn. So protecting a cycle means it's protected. So that's like what it says. It can't be stolen. And that's where this card comes into play. So you put this card like next to the cycle, and that means that no one can really do anything with it until it's your turn again. So, and that'd be an incomplete cycle. If a cycle's complete, that's kind of it. You can't steal a cycle that is complete, unless I'm forgetting one of the abilities. So, sea turtle, the butterfly. Whenever a card from this cycle, the butterfly cycle, is played, change its power to copy. Okay, so the also active, the butterfly's ability is passive, and it says whenever a card from this cycle is played, change its power to a copy of another played cycle. Interesting. That's passive. The kangaroo is also passive. You may use 2 powers on your turn. That's kind of nice. Yeah, so because it's passive, you're not really, well, I guess it being passive means you would use 2 additional, because if this is passive, it's kind of always in flux. I guess you could, I don't know. So the kangaroo is you may use 2 powers on your turn. That's pretty good, but not the same power twice. The jellyfish is select a card from a player's hand, then discard it. No peeking. The frog is disable a cycle and remove its protection. Its powers have no effect until the end of the owner's turn. And that would be this. So the protection, so this protects, but so the sea turtle can protect, but the frog has the ability to disable a cycle and remove its protection. Interesting. So its powers have no effect. So that means basically you render someone's cycle unprotected and ineffective in that they can't use that ability on their turn. The chicken, shuffle your hand into the deck and then draw 3 cards. But that also means if you have 1 card in your hand, you shuffle that 1 card in and draw 3 cards. So if you have 3, you're getting 3. But no matter what you do, if you have less, you're getting 3. You also have a hand size of 5 cards as well. The salmon, choose a player and name a cycle. If that player has a card from that cycle in their hand, take it. If not, draw a card. The cell, wow, the cell could kind of be anything. Anyway, the cell is discard a card, then draw 2 cards. You must discard to draw, so you have to discard. The giant panda is when you draw from the discard pile, you may draw from the bottom instead of the top. So I mentioned how the discard pile will kind of cascade out to the right, I guess. You could take one from the bottom instead of from the top. Taken from the top is, so I guess the mushroom and the panda both dictate how you can use the discard pile. And then the virus, a lyctic virus, I guess it's virus lyctic. This says, you may play this as stage 3 of another cycle, but that cycle's power is permanently disabled. The cycle keeps its type. So what this does is it's a virus, so it just mimics another cycle. So if I needed a stage 3 kangaroo, I could put this virus in place of a stage 3 kangaroo and complete that cycle. I should probably also mention that the game is won when a player completes 3 cycles. So if you have 3 full cycles, 3 1 through 4s, or if you're using copies and things, like the virus, 3 complete cycles and you win the game. So those are all the various powers that all of the life forms, the species have. I'm saying life form, that the different animals have. So let me do a quick setup and run you through a couple of turns and show you how the game plays. This is what a basic setup would look like. Each player would get 3 cards, and I'm showing them only so, just for the examples, for the sake of the example, you would not really show them. But so player 2 has a stage 3 frog, a stage 2 chicken, and a stage 4 plant. And I think I did forget to show the plant when I went over all the abilities. So plant is another cycle that I forgot to show. So the plant's active ability is draw a card. You may draw from either the deck or the discard pile. So player 1 has a stage 2 cell, a stage 1 kangaroo, or a stage 4 salmon, which is pretty much a salmon. I like salmon. Anyway, on your turn, you're basically able to do 5 different things in a particular order. The first thing you're able to do is to draw a card. You can draw a card from the deck, or as the discard pile gets populated, you're able to draw a card from the top. Now, as I mentioned, the kangaroo the mushroom and something I'm forgetting allow you. The mushroom and the panda I think, or Mushroom and the Kangaroo, allow you to draw from the discard pile differently than the rules say. By default, you're able to draw off the top card. There was a little bit of confusion in the rules about drawing from the discard because the rules state some things. The current rulebook states some things that are kind of at odds with the Panda ability. The Panda ability allows you to draw from the bottom of the discard. The rules didn't say you had to draw from the top. I kind of bugged the designer and got some more clarification on that. A little confusing, and also there's a rule about being able, if you draw from the discard pile, you have to use that card on your turn, but you can also pick up any cards to the right. If you're drawing cards from the top, there are no cards to the right. So that's a little confusing, but you just figure out what you want to do. I think going forward, how we're going to play it is you draw from the top, and then you use those abilities as how they're stated on the actual animals and such, or plants or what have you, on the life forms. That's a good way of doing it. So yeah, it's kind of, I didn't mean to confuse you there. So we're going to draw from the top of the discard, and of different abilities let you draw from the bottom or anywhere. You can just use those as you see fit. So you're able to draw top of the deck, discard pile. Step 2 on your turn, you're able to start or steal one cycle. Starting a cycle could just mean putting down a card. So I put down a stage 4 plant. I've started a cycle. Now you're probably asking yourself, how do you start a cycle at stage 4? You are able to kind of wrap around, because I guess the idea is if you're starting at stage 4, then you're a full-grown plant who's able to reproduce more. So you could go from stage 4 to a stage 1. If you, let's say, put down a stage 2 chicken, you could add on 3 or 4 around that. You can loop from 4 to 1, stage 4 to stage 1, but I think that's all you're able to do. You are not able to go from a stage 2 to a stage 4. You can't skip steps, but you can loop, if that makes sense. So this picture here kind of, you can't do 2 to 4, 4 to 1. Yes, that makes sense. So you can start a cycle. That could just be a single card of a life form. Just start it off. So you can start or steal. So someone else has, let's say player 2 had a stage 1 salmon and I have a stage 4 salmon. I could start a salmon cycle with a 4, or I could also steal what they have in a cycle. So you're able to start or steal in a cycle. That makes sense. And stealing is necessary because you're going to want to steal things in order to complete. If you steal a cycle with 3 cards, you complete it, you've completed that cycle. And as far as I know, it cannot be taken away from you. So you are encouraged to steal. You can also build on your cycle. So if you started several cycles on previous turns and you have cards in your hands that can augment them, you're able to put cards onto cycles that are already sitting in front of you. The fourth thing you can do, remember these are all in order, is use 1 power. You can use a power for any cycle that you have started in front of you, started or completed. Any cycle in front of you, you can use those abilities. So if I have plant out in front of me and chicken, for my 4th action of my turn, I can choose either one of their abilities. I can either draw a card using the plant or shuffle my hand into the deck and take 3 cards. Your hand size limit, I think, is 5. So, and then the last thing you do, the 5th thing you do on your turn is you discard. You have to discard a card. You have to make some tough decisions. It's going to hurt a lot. Anyway, let me just run through a couple of turns here. I'll start off with player 1 on the left here, and they are going to draw a card. So they drew a plant. So they can either start or steal 1 cycle. This is essentially their hand. What are they going to do here? Let me just kind of do it like this so you can see. What are they going to do? They don't know what player one has at all. So let's say they like the ability of the kangaroo, being able to use 2 different powers, even though they only have 1 out right now. So they're going to start a kangaroo cycle. They can't build on any of their cycles, which is the third thing you can do because they only have the 1 kangaroo. Now let's say they had multiple kangaroo cards. If this was the stage 2 kangaroo, they could just put that down and build on that kangaroo. They don't have anything else. Their power is passive, but it's to use 2 powers on their turn. They only have the 1 cycle starter, so they can't do that. So they have to discard. Put the cycles up there. I'll probably just put these up here so they're not in the way. And last thing you can do is discard. So they are going to, sometimes you want to base what you discard on the power, So the salmon, they choose a player. They finally want to choose a player and name a cycle. So they're just going to discard the salmon. That's their turn. Player 2, they drew a human. So they have a stage 3 frog, stage 2 chicken, stage 4 plant, stage 4 human. So being able to exchange with someone else's cycle is pretty good. Also being able to get new cards is good. Shuffling your hand back into the deck. They're going to start a human cycle. Okay. They can't build on any cycles. They only have the 1. They don't have any more human cards. Use 1 power. Exchange a cycle. They could exchange for, I guess, the kangaroo if they wanted to. So let's say they say that. Exchange a cycle you control. Now, control cycle, it doesn't say complete. Well, because you've never exchanged a complete cycle for an incomplete one, because that would defeat the purpose. So I'm assuming control just means 1 that's in front of you. So they can exchange a cycle for another player's incomplete cycle, and it doesn't count as a steal because we already passed the steal phase, because you could either start or steal. They started, so they're going to just switch. So now player 2 has a kangaroo because they want to be able to use 2 powers on their turn, and then they're going to have to discard. What's the power that they're not really all that concerned about disabling protection, so they're going to discard the frog. Okay. Oh, also, if you ever run out of cards on your turn, you're able to draw 3 cards at the start of your next turn. That's also key. Back to player 1. They're going to draw a cell. Okay. So they drew a card. They are going to start a cell cycle, and they're going to build on that cycle. So now they have 2 and 3, and they can use 1 power. Discard their power. The cell's power is to discard a card, then draw 2 cards. So technically, that kind of means I only have 1 card. I'd have to discard this card, then take 2 cards, and then discard another card. So, yeah. So yeah, they're going to discard that. So the plant goes there, and they're going to draw 2 cards. That's just what the power is. The power is to discard a card, draw 2 cards, and then they are going to discard a card. So they drew a human, stage 3, and a kangaroo. So because they have a stage 3, they can certainly add that to their stage 4. So I'm not sure if you have to go in order. I don't think so. Let me actually confirm that. Let me see. Once you control a cycle, you can add as many cards to as long as they go in sequence. So if you can go from 4 to 1, does that mean you can go from 3 to 4? It doesn't say you. Well, thematically, having an adult turtle in this picture have kids means you're going in sequence. But it kind of seems like I probably won't be able to in a subsequent turn add a 3 to a 4, because you can't go from an adult to an adolescent. It has to go in order. But I'm going to hang on to it though. I'm actually going to just get rid of. Well, let me see here actually. Because I know player 2 has a kangaroo out, but they have a kangaroo stage 1. This is a kangaroo stage 3. I don't know if they have a kangaroo stage 2 in their hand, so I probably keep the human to myself as my hand. These are cycles in my hand, and I probably dump the kangaroo. hoping that they can't use it right away, and in which case it would get covered up by something else anyway. So yeah, that's player 1's turn, and player 2 would draw a card and a virus. So yeah, well, maybe they wouldn't do that. Excuse me. So if I'm player 2 and I have a stage 1, I'm probably going to want that stage 3 at some point. I can't skip from 1 to 3, but I want to have it in hand. I probably take the kangaroo, honestly. And at that point, I could start another cycle. So I'm going to start a chicken cycle down here, and I can build on a cycle, but I can't really build on it only because, yeah, I can't really do anything with that. Dang. So because I do have a kangaroo, I'm probably just going to dump the plant, and then that'll be my turn. Hands, cycles. So that's how cycles essentially plays. And as you keep going, you will eventually, if you want to be able to get anything from the discard, you're probably going to want to get you want to get the giant panda in case you want the card on the bottom. And where's the mushroom? Where's the wily and elusive mushroom? And the mushroom is add any card from the discard to your hand. So if you get a mushroom, you probably want to start a cycle with it just to be able to use this ability, even if you don't really want to complete it, just because that's key. Being able to get anything from the discard. Oh boy. Yeah. I think are there less mushrooms or something? I don't know. But yeah. So that is how cycles essentially plays. As far as the educational aspect, my kids are a little bit older, so they kind of understand to some degree. Like, I don't know if I said, hey, what is mitosis and what is interphase? So they would just be able to shout it out to me. But they had understanding and grasp on what the various life cycles were. But I can definitely get the, understand that this would be introducing some things to some people, to preferably younger people, and getting them familiar with some of the varying life cycles of some of these creatures, which is in plants, life forms. Say that more of a blanket statement. And that cycles, it's pretty fun. I believe it's coming to Kickstarter shortly. So if you have maybe some younger people with whom you play games in your household, or you're a teacher or something like that, might be something that's it definitely, it's a game. It definitely has a take that type mechanic where you're stealing things. So it definitely is a game where it's not just purely educational. Like, there's some player interaction where, you might do some things to hurt your opponents, but if you're reading the cards and going over the various things with whomever is the students or what have you, there's something that can certainly be learned and gleaned from these cards without like beating kids over the head with it. Like, it's somewhat educational. It is educational without looking very sterile. Like, this is a game that's going to teach you something. It doesn't look like something where it's like, oh man. And even if somebody has that impression, there's a game here, and it's pretty enjoyable. I like the fact that there's so many abilities, and you would have to decide, like, is this worth me getting and starting for the ability, or worth me getting starting to complete? So you have some choices to make there. So that cycles. I mean, you might get the reaction of
learning. Let's get out of here. Hey!
Aside from all that, there is a game here, and it is fun. So that's gonna do it for me. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, like, share, all that kind of stuff. Watch more videos, leave comments. The usual stuff people ask you to do, but just actually do it this time. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Take care. Stay safe. Be blessed.